So I thought this would be an interesting spot to do this video that I want to do, because right here, right where I'm sitting, right in this little area, was the first time that I peaked on a psychedelic mushroom, or maybe a few of them, I think. But I think I was probably about 15 years old, and I remember just sitting here. And at the time it was gravel. There was more gravel there, and as I stared at the gravel, these letters and shapes started forming in the gravel, like these patterns that I didn't see before were forming in the gravel, and they slowly started floating up off of the ground and into the air. And I was, you know, shaking. I was just couldn't believe what I was witnessing, and I was so fascinated by it. I was just sitting here just watching it. These numbers and shapes and squiggly lines, or different types of shapes that don't even belong in nature, I thought. Or maybe I just wasn't aware of it. But anyways, this is a really special spot right here. So and so this talk, I wanted to talk about, damn, I think I already forgot it, but let it come back to me real quick. Drugs and hugs. Okay, drugs and hugs, yeah. So the basis of the talk is how I believe that so many people use drugs. Well, there's a bunch of reasons why they use drugs, but one of the main ones is they're not feeling loved. They're not feeling loved. They're not feeling connected. They're not feeling supported. They felt, betrayed or hurt in some sort of way. And deep down they're really hurt, and they don't feel loved. So they turned to things like drugs to fill this space where there's this emptiness, where they didn't receive the love that they should have, or could have, rather, when they were children, or in a relationship with a loved one, whether it was family or romantic or whatever. Like, listen, whether we like it or not, human beings, we have emotions. We experience emotions, rather. So, and when we come into communion with each other, especially on an intimate level, wink wink, just kidding, but not at all, we are connecting on like a really deep level. And God, I'm sorry, guys. This is real shit, though. This is real talk. Pardon my language. I gotta work on my language. I cuss a little too much. My dad was telling me the other day, stop swearing, and I thought it was silly, because I think that swearing plays its role. Okay, like when somebody feels strongly about something and they cuss, it means that they're like, they feel strongly about it. They're passionate about the subject. So as long as it's not like cussing at somebody or cussing somebody out in a screw you type of way, which I have been guilty of before, but I don't see anything wrong with a little bit of cursing here and there. But it is best to keep our mouths clean as possible, our vocabulary as clean as possible. So I'm getting distracted here, but the point of this talk was, one of my part-time friends told me, well, they'll always be asking for hugs. And well, if you look at the science of what happens when a person feels connected or hugs another person, apparently, according to the science, and I'm just doing that quote unquote thing because I find a lot of people, they just they think if it cannot be proven by science, then it's not real, and I don't agree with that at all. So um, there are other realms aside from this physical realm. Um, not a lot of people have seen them or experienced them, so I understand why they just think everything is physical, evidence based. It has to be, based in reality on a physical level. But my point, besides the point is, when you hug somebody, this is a scientific study apparently, that they hooked up receptors to the brain. They hooked up, not receptors, what are they called? I don't know what the damn, wires to the brain, all right? To monitor the brain activity. And when a person is giving another person a hug, I think it's upward of 30 seconds or something like that, then oxytocin, a chemical called oxytocin, is released. And this same chemical is released when a person is feeling grounded and supported and loved in a community or a strong family unit. There's this flow of oxytocin being released in the human brain, and it causes the person to feel warm and content and happy and calm and collected and just all the good things, and so I said this before, but there was a company called Purdue Pharma, and they synthesized theobromine, which was an alkaloid, one of many alkaloids from the poppy plant, the poppy flower, Papaver somniferum, actually. And there's a few different strains of this poppy, but some of them, we've crossbred them over time and made them, altered the levels of each alkaloid. Codeine, morphine being the two base ones, but there's also theobromine and there's laudanum, among a few others. There could be quite a few more others. I'm not an expert, but I've done a bit of research on it. So anyways, this company came up with a medication called Oxycontin. All right? I'm sure you've heard of it. And you've probably heard bad things about it. But I think it's no coincidence that they called it Oxycontin, because how similar does that sound to oxytocin? All right? And I've tried Oxycontin, and it makes you feel warm, and it makes you feel loved, it makes you feel content, all those things I was explaining about when a human is, loved and supported and healthy and grounded in their relationships with their friends and family. But when there's something is off with those relationships, they're left with this empty space in themselves, and that can lead, when they can focus on that empty space for too much. It's painful. It becomes painful because we're supposed to be, connected. We're supposed to be close and supported and loved and trusting one another. But unfortunately, in life, sometimes things happen and we lose trust for each other. And these wounds are created, these empty holes in our hearts and our minds. And then we seek to fill those holes up with things that help us feel better, because nobody wants to feel unloved, and nobody wants to be in pain. There's a reason for feeling in pain. It's because there's something wrong, right? Like you're in pain because there's something wrong. So as much as you don't want to feel in pain, if you are in pain, you should try to figure out why you're in pain. And in the meantime, if you can't figure it out, you should seek relief, especially if the pain is unbearable. and is making it hard for you to function. So that's why these medications are there, these painkillers and stuff. But I can't talk too much about this stuff because it is very taboo. But there are natural pain relievers everywhere in nature. Okay, nature is like an infinite bank. It's a pharmacy. Like this is, if you looked hard enough, like you would find a medicine or some sort of treatment for almost any ailment in nature itself. So the powers that be, the people at the top, I know people are gonna laugh at me, but I know damn well what I'm talking about. I know the people who make big money off of ignorant people who don't know what's going on. And one of those things is that nature is a giant pharmacy. And actually just spending time in nature can heal you. Just spending time alone, not just making medicines out of it and whatever, just immersing yourself in nature, in the forest, can heal. And so it's like, it's a giant pharmacy, but it's also like this healing place where you can go and feel peace again, because the world out there, society, is just absolutely ridden with chaos and pollution and a lot of bad stuff, in my opinion. So every time I come out to the forest, I feel more peace. And I'm still working on my relationships with my family and my friends. I still carry around a decent amount of pain from what happened with my childhood. Some days it feels like it's not there. I've overcome it completely, but then something will happen, and it's like I'll be reminded, oh shit, wow, this hasn't really fully healed yet. But I can feel it each day, kind of going down more and more. But just sitting here in this really special spot right now, talking about this is quite therapeutic, I think. And yeah, I just want to encourage people to try to become aware of why you're doing what you're doing. For a long time, I just kind of going about life just blindly and running from this pain that I was harboring deep inside of myself, that I didn't even realize, was there really, until I started to look at it. And then shit got really real. And then I found some tools. I found this plant medicine called kratom, actually. Here we go. Big controversial controversy going around about this plant right now. But a lot of stupid bullshit is being talked about this plant. It's being misused. Listen, I find in the Western world, in the modern Western world, what happens often is these ancient plants, healing medicines, plant medicines, they get misused because everything in this Western modern world is about a dollar bill, it seems. It's about making money, capitalism. I don't want to go on about capitalism, but it really does tie into that somehow. So it's about making a dollar bill so you can attain a certain status on this hierarchical ladder of society that is inherent in nature itself, but it's not. It's, when it comes to human nature, it's just blown out of proportion, I think. But I could be in denial. Humans could be just far more savage than I want to admit. But I want to believe that we we can learn to work together and get along. And once again, there's certain people out there at the top, or at the bottom rather, that don't want us to know that we can get along and we can support one another in harmony, live in harmony, and live in harmony not with just each other but with nature itself. And there's like an infinite wealth of resources, and they don't want you to believe that. Okay, they don't want you to believe that. They want you in a scarcity mindset. But if you look around, I don't know, every single summer, because I live in a part of the world where it's like 10 months of the year is winter, like, so everything is kind of cold and dead. But every time spring comes back around, the snow melts, I'm just looking around, I'm seeing a wealth of abundance around me all the time. And I need to become more aware of the things that I can use. But it's I'm part of this society that is disconnected from nature too, and I'm kind of forced to be a part of it because we're told it's just normal. This is just normal. It's how things are. It's how it has been forever, and I question that narrative. But anyways, I think I've gone on for long enough. But yeah, this spot right here, this is the first spot I ever tried magic mushrooms, and it's trippy to be here. Maybe I'll talk about my experience with mushrooms and psychedelics in another video soon, because they also can be very healing and uplifting substances, medicines, if you will, but they can also damage you if you misuse them. So life is just kind of about being aware and learning as you go along the way. So